We're going to learn how to design a frame of a simple micro quadcopter using Autodesk Fusion 360. In part 1 of this tutorial, we're going to learn how to design the motor holder and the arms of the quadcopter. Some of the skills we're going to learn are how to use the basic tools and layout of Fusion 360, use the sketching feature of Fusion 360, work with dimensions, and finally, how to use the mirror feature to simplify tasks. So let's start by going to File, New Design, and we're going to go to Sketch, Create Sketch, and we're going to create a sketch on the bottom plane. So let's click on the bottom plane, and then we're going to go to Sketch, Rectangle, Center Rectangle, and from the center point we're going to make a rectangle that's 65 millimeters by 65 millimeters. So let's type in 65 and hit Tab. And that locks in the rectangle to the plane so you can't accidentally change its size. And we'll do the same thing for the other dimension. Put in 65 and hit enter. So now let's make the circles for the motor holders. Let's go to Sketch, Circle, Center Diameter Circle, and using this corner we're going to make a circle that's 8.5 millimeters because that's the diameter of the motors we're using. So I'll type in 8.5, hit enter. Enter again, and the next circle I'm going to make is going to be from the same point, but this one is going to be 11.5 millimeters, and that's going to be the outside of the motor holder. So let's hit enter, and then one more circle is going to be again from the same point, but this circle is going to be 7.5 millimeters. So circle, center diameter circle, and we're going to click on the center point and we're going to type in 7.5 and then hit enter. Alright, so now let's make a few notches, and these notches are going to make it easier to slip in the motors when we put together the quadcopter. So let's go to Sketch, Line, or alternatively you can just hit the L hotkey to get a line. So we're going to make a line from the center corner up to where the line intersects the circle and then click. Let's go to Sketch, Point, and we're going to place a couple of points. There's going to be a point to the left of the circle, a point where the line intersects the circle, and a point to the right. And it doesn't matter how far apart these points are because we're going to dimension them. So let's go to Sketch, Sketch Dimensions, and we're going to click on these 2 points and we're going to see the dimension lines. We're going to make these dimension lines go straight up, so vertically, and click, and I want these 2 points to be 0.5 millimeters apart. So I'll type in 0.5 and you can see that the distance between these 2 points changes to 0.5 millimeters. So let's do the same thing with these 2 points here. Again, we're going to go Sketch, Sketch Dimensions, use these 2 points here, have a dimension line that's vertical, click, type in 0.5 and hit enter. And as you can see, the distance between the points changes. Let's go to Sketch, Line, and we're going to make a line from this point to the innermost circle. So drag straight down until you see the X where it intersects with the inner circle. Click, and let's repeat the same thing with the other points. So drag and click. Now let's make the arm of the quadcopter. Let's go to Sketch, Line. Let's make a line from the corner to the outside of the circle where it intersects the dashed line. So you'll see the angle. You'll see the angle at 135 degrees. Let's click, and we're going to make one more line. If we zoom out, we're going to make a line from this intersection to the center of the sketch. Let's place a couple of points now. Let's go to Sketch, Point. We're going to place a point to the left of the circle, a point on the intersection, and a point to the right. Let's dimension these points. We'll go to Sketch, Sketch Dimensions, and click on these 2 points until our dimension lines are vertically, and we want these points to be 1 millimeter apart. So we'll type in 1, hit enter, and let's repeat this operation with the other 2 points. So click on the 2 points, vertical dimension lines, we're going to make it 1 millimeter apart, and that looks good. So now let's go to sketch, line. We're going to make a line from this point to somewhere on the green line, somewhere about that much should be okay. Let's click and click on the check mark, and let's make another line from this point down to somewhere along this line. It doesn't matter where, because we're going to make these lines parallel. So on the sketch palette, you should see a couple of different constraints. We're going to use the parallel constraint. So let's click on parallel, and we're going to make this blue line parallel to this. So click on this and click on this, and then you can see how the parallel constraints got added to indicate that these 2 lines are parallel. Let's repeat the same thing with these 2 lines. So it looks like parallel is already selected. So I'm going to hit this line, and they should become parallel. Now let's start to make all of our parts 3-dimensional. So let's go to our motor holders, and we're going to go to create and extrude, and we're going to select the innermost circle. So we're going to select this part, hold control, and we're going to select some of the other parts of that except for that notch we made. So we're going to select these parts, and we're going to extrude it by 1 millimeter. So we're going to type in 1, and we can hit OK. All these settings look good. We'll hit OK, and you can see that now we have a 3-dimensional projection of that circle. Let's click on the top view, and as you notice, the sketch actually turned itself off when you did that. We'll turn it back on, and now let's extrude the outside circle. So again, we'll select this part, hold control, select all these other parts, and we'll leave the middle gap there. So let's hit the hotkey E to extrude, and this one we're going to extrude 12 millimeters. So let's hit OK and revolve it. That looks good. Before we extrude the arm, let's draw one more line. So we're going to right click on our sketch 1, and we're going to go to edit sketch. We're going to make a line in order to make this a closed shape. And it looks like we need to extend this just a little bit. So let's do that. We're going to extend it. Hit escape, sketch, line, and we're going to connect that with the line. That should be okay. Let's hit stop sketch, and let's extrude this arm up. So we're going to select both parts, holding control, hit E to extrude, and we're going to extrude this by 3 millimeters. So type in 3 and hit OK. So now we have our first arm of the quadcopter built. And to save us a lot of work, instead of having to redo the whole thing on the other 3 corners, let's just mirror all of what we've done. So we're going to select all of this. We're going to place a box around it, just like that. Let's go to create, mirror, and for the objects, we've already selected the object, the mirror plane. It says for selected. I'm not really sure why that is. So we're going to X that. And for the plane that we're going to mirror it on, we'll select this back plane here. So let's click on that, and you can see that it mirrors itself. Let's hit OK. And let's mirror both of these parts now to the bottom plane. So we'll select everything. Let's go to create, mirror, objects. We already selected the 2 objects that we want to mirror. The mirror plane, again, we'll unselect that. And the plane that we're using is actually this back one here. Let's hit OK. And as you can see, it mirrors all of its parts. So now we have the 4 motor holders of our quadcopter.